And welcome into the late shift. We are live here on the Blues YouTube channel inside the Players Club following the Blues versus the New Jersey Devils. Jim Montgomery. He's made a lot of headlines here as of late, the new head coach of the St. Louis Blues. Does anybody ever think your name is Monty?
Yeah, I get that a lot.
They just call you Monty. They've been calling you Monty since when?
Freshman year in college.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And now here you are, head coach of the St. Louis Blues. That's kind of surreal, right? Everything kind of goes full circle. What's it like being back here?
It's a blessing. It's the best way. I'm incredibly grateful, for my family to be part of the Blues again. What a premier organization, and be living in a great city of St. Louis. It's fantastic.
Why has St. Louis always been a good fit for Jim Montgomery?
People.
Yeah.
People are great in St. Louis. The community, the culture of worrying about your neighbor first and not yourself, and being incredibly generous with your time or money. I think it just resonates with me. I love it when people are unselfish. Was
this the perfect situation for you to come back here?
Well, I guess perfect situation is you don't lose your job. But, after, you're available, and when Army called, right away I knew it was awesome. Mm-hmm. I was going back to be able to take my kids and have them graduate high school in St. Louis. That's huge.
I remember you telling me your kids got emotional when you told them you were coming here to be an assistant coach. So what was the reaction when you told them that you were coming here to be the head coach?
A lot of hoot and hollering, because all their friends are St. Louisans. They're close friends. And, my wife, the high school thing in St. Louis is a real thing. She has so many great friends here. And
where'd she go to high school?
Kariya.
Oh, there you go. I'm glad you knew that answer. I thought maybe I was going to stump you on that one.
Well, I remember the first time I was asked that when I was a Blues player. I'm like, Rosemount High?
Rosemount High. Where's that, in Montreal?
Yeah.
Because your kids, they're playing hockey and all that stuff here. When you were an assistant coach, was it tough for everybody to leave at that time, or were they excited for you to get back behind the bench as a head coach?
It was hard to leave because my son was 12 years old and loved his junior Blues teammates and the team, loved his school, and then we had to leave. We actually had to sit down and did the pros and cons. He was maybe going to stay with his grandmother.
I remember you saying
that. And we weren't going to let him stay because there's Mama Bear was not going to let that happen. But, we're really excited that we're all coming back.
All right, so where were you when Army called? And were you even thinking when you got let go by Boston that maybe you would find your way back behind the bench this season?
I got to say, I did think I'd be back behind the bench this season. I thought it would be post-Christmas. But when the phone rang, I was sitting on the couch, and I couldn't find a show to binge watch. Mm-hmm. So I started watching Peaky Blinders again.
Is that your show?
I love it. Yeah.
So when you pick up the phone, are you thinking that he's calling to offer you the job, to talk about that? And how long did the conversation go before he said, hey, do you want to be my head coach?
I did not think he was calling. Army, I knew from working here, he likes having people that have worked for him and moved on, mm-hmm. come back, whether it's players, management, coaches. And I thought, maybe he had an idea of, what I should be doing, looking for. And, the conversation went quickly from this is not a social call, this is a business call.
Ah. And he said, when I see something delicious on my plate, I eat. Is that what he said?
Yeah.
He's got great one-liners.
Part of the job is to make people feel valued and wanted. Mm-hmm. And Army clearly, made me feel that way, and that made it even easier to make the decision to jump right back in.
Yeah, but they've made you feel that way before. I'm curious how it worked out when you came here as an assistant coach. Who reached out to you at that time, and how did that come about?
First, Army did. I met him for coffee, and then Chief did.
Okay. Your coaching thing has been going on for a long, long time, Monty. I mean, even reminding myself today how long you've been at this, and everyone focuses on you're playing at Maine, then you had an NHL career, and you played hockey, and all of a sudden you just find your way behind a bench. But I mean, you were and a volunteer assistant, I think, at Notre Dame, right? Which means you didn't make any money. Is that what it means?
I went and worked a job. I remember it was just a bunch of extra stuff, painting in a warehouse, and that's what I'd do from 7 a.m. till 1 p.m. and I'd go right to practice.
But you were at RPI for 4 years?
Yeah.
As an assistant?
Yes.
Did you envision this life for yourself? Like, did you always know you had what it took to be a head coach at the NHL?
After my first year coaching, I always thought I did.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought my biggest strength as a player was how I saw the game and how you could create offense off that and competing. And so I thought, but you don't know until you work. And I was fortunate to work with Jeff Jackson because he's a real good coach that understands how to run a program and a good culture. And the hours I put in that year, I knew right away. Like, that's the big test, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone thinks coaching's great, but are you going to be willing to put the work in, the 10,000 hours to learn how to become a good coach?
Yeah.
And once I started getting along the coaching path and I got my first head coaching opportunity, then my confidence and my growth as a coach really took off.
All right, so to be an NHL head coach, you have to love the game. Who taught you to love the game?
Well, I would say that that's a good question. The first was my dad. Like, he loved sports. He was an elite athlete, and he was a great coach. I don't know why he didn't get to coaching himself, but that was my first introduction. Then I would say, Grant Stanbrook recruited me to the University of Maine, and just the knowledge he had, I was like, man, I can learn so much from him. Then I met Sean Walsh, and it's like, wow, what a dynamic head coach.
Yeah.
Being able to resonate with the locker room, make people believe in a common goal. And that's where I really developed the hunger.
Yeah, and John Stanbrook, obviously here in St. Louis also, so he's got some St. Louis roots. Your dad was a great athlete? What sport?
3 sports. Came from a poor family, so he went to the Olympics for boxing in '56, represented Canada, and he won a national championship in basketball and football.
Basketball?
Yeah.
Could he dunk? Like, was he like?
No. I don't know if anyone dunked back in '52.
Oh, that's true.
He was 6 foot though.
Yeah. All right. So a kid from Montreal finds his way to play NCAA hockey. Like, was that common? Even when you were playing college hockey, that a lot of Canadians were playing NCAA hockey?
It was starting to become common.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just very fortunate that the group of friends that I was with had connections and they knew about it. Ken Hughes, the GM of Montreal, really is the one that made my eyes open to it.
Listen, look at these highlights here. Now, playing with Paul Kariya, what were your first impressions when you first got on the ice with him? Did you know who he was before he got there?
Oh, yeah. We helped recruit him. I'd done a Hockey Canada camp with him that summer. But my first impressions were, first time I was on the ice, I was like, this is the greatest player I've ever stepped on the ice with.
Really? Why was that?
He did everything at such a higher level. Mm-hmm. Faster, smarter, skill was better, skated better, shot better, and the passing was look at that pass.
I know. And that was your third goal.
Yeah.
And the first goal was incredible, too. He made the play below the goal line. We just saw it, and you just went to the far post, and he just slid it over to you. Like, were you guys doing that all season long?
Well, I can't say I was, but he definitely was.
Well,
we had Cal Ingraham was the third member of our line.
Yeah.
Incredible hands on him. Mm-hmm. 5'4".
Yeah.
He stood on the back post of the power play, and he had 25 tap-ins.
Oh, yeah. So that was the play?
Yeah, that was the play. Get it to Paul, and he finds the Cal.
Yeah. His skating, I mean, I can't imagine too many players were able to match his skating and his skill level at that point, right? A true freshman getting 100 points. But what was it about a true freshman coming in? You're a senior. Hey, you don't often have too many seniors and then a true freshman become best friends. How did you guys become best friends?
I think we just spent a lot of time together. We were roommates on the road all the time, and I just think that it was the first time where he had played with a teammate that wanted him to succeed because I'm not dumb.
Yeah.
He succeeds, we win a national championship.
All right, but that was Maine's first ever national championship. Yeah. So how did you guys get Paul Kariya to come to Maine? All the way from British Columbia.
Grant Stanbrook, number one reason,
Yeah.
And I think the ability that we had a winning program and the opportunity to play with veteran players that were already established in college.
I love your shout out to the state of Maine, by the way, in your post-game interview. You sounded like a coach back then, Monty.
Well, like I said, I was around a dynamic head coach. Sean Walsh was the best I've ever seen with media and donors.
Yeah. Paul Kariya is notorious, even when he was playing, for like his stretching and his pregame routine. I think he was like juggling apples back then. I remember watching a feature.
Oh, yeah.
Like, was he still was doing that back then, right? I mean, that kind of set the tone for his professional career. He brought it to his pro career too.
Yeah, he always studied how to get better, whether it was minimal stuff like juggling for hand-eye coordination or stretching or, just how to catch pucks in different ways. He'd catch pucks, throw them full speed at him in practice, and he'd have his skate off the ice, come down, stop it with his toe.
Wow. With the apple. Or with the puck.
With the puck on the yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
You guys keep in touch?
Yeah, Paul and I talk quite a bit. It's more text message than it is phone calls. Phone calls are probably once a month. Text messages are a couple of times weekly.
All right, so even when you're putting up 300-plus points throughout your college career, you had 95 points your last year. You're a Hobey Baker finalist, I believe, right? And he won the Hobey Baker. And you were genuinely happy for him when he won the Hobey Baker. But did you believe that you had what it took to have an NHL playing career? What were your thoughts on that?
I never did because, first of all, I'm 5'8" on a good day. And back then, my first two line mates were Kelly Chase and Basil McRae. So that tells you how the league was so much different back then, right? I mean, both great players, but tough as nails. And that's why St. Louis was such a tough place to play. But I didn't think I would ever get the opportunity.
Basil, great mind for the game, too. Like, he's super intelligent, right? Did you know that right off the bat?
Well, yeah, he was my roommate. I was very lucky that he chose me. And the first time we're on the road, we're in Detroit, he goes, 2 rules. And I didn't know him then. He's like, make sure you lift the seat up when you go pee. And he goes, don't ever touch the remote control. And I was like, oh, my God. And then he threw the remote control at me because I don't care about TV.
Yeah, well, he was an established tough guy even then, right? So that had to be kind of intimidating for a young guy to come in.
Oh, yeah.
But he and Kelly Chase, you were telling me this morning, they had rules for you on the ice, though, before your first game, right? What was your rule for the
Yeah, we
ice?
went out for pregame skate, and they said, well, you got to be ready to go tonight. I said, I'll be ready. And they're like, well, you got to pick up all these gloves and sticks at one time. We don't want you making 2 trips to the box when we fight first shift.
What was the biggest difference between the NHL and the American League for you? You put up some great numbers even in the American League.
Yeah, it's just a difference of skill level. The speed and the compete in the hockey sense of players at the NHL level is a fraction of a second quicker. And that fraction of a second quicker just, it didn't allow me to make the same plays that I made in the American League routinely.
Yeah, even as a coach, do you get amazed when you watch NHL players now, the plays that they're able to make and how quickly they can process the game?
Yes. See, my brain allowed me to see the plays. I just physically couldn't do the plays.
Yeah.
So because of speed and size and strength. The thing about a coach is if you see the plays now, every once in a while, like a player like Bucci, Robert Thomas, Pasternak was one, they make plays where I don't see it behind the bench. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah. It's amazing. Ron Caron, how did he find you?
I think it goes, first... I'm forgetting the agent's name. He was a scout with the Blues, and we were having a great year, and they're like, I think we should go. What is it? Yeah, Matt Cater.
Oh yeah,
Cato. Yeah, and he's the one that and he had Ron came up and watched me play, and I think it was the Frozen Four. It was pretty easy to pick me out there because Paul was setting me up left and right.
And so people may not know when you sign an NHL contract, you got to have a witness, right?
That's right.
And who was your witness?
My witness was Paul Kariya, and Ron Caron. I come to camp, and he goes, hey, it's the first time that I sign a contract where I want the witness.
And exactly. So Paul Kariya. So I guess you can have a player be a witness even if they belong to another team, right? Or if they're going to...
Anyone can witness a contract, yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
He was not with another team, no.
He hadn't been drafted yet.
Correct.
Okay. Your first impressions of Brett Hull?
Incredibly talented, funny, and fun.
Yeah. Was he good to you as a young guy?
I thought he was great to me. Incredibly lucky. I mean, you could learn so much from him. One of the smartest hockey minds offensively ever played this game.
All right, let's walk us through this play. Those are beautiful jerseys, by the way. I like the red trim on those old school uniforms. Like, what are you thinking here? You're just on the ice, you're playing. I think this is your first ever goal, though, so maybe you can walk us through this play if you even remember it. You're on the ice with Hully, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, the play was just win it back to Hully and go to the net. This was that. It's funny, that goal right there, he told me, you got a bottom hand redirect that morning skate.
Really?
And that night, same play happened, and I bottom hand. I said, I learned.
Now tell people what he meant by that.
What he meant was don't stop it. Just my passing can be on your tape. Just redirect it at the net. Don't give the goalie a chance to get across.
Yeah. What made him so good at scoring goals, though? Man, outside of his ability to shoot the puck,
His ability to find open ice.
Yeah.
Like he'd let someone over back check, and he just needed the puck to hit a stick to score. He's so gifted in his release, so gifted in being able to handle hard, soft, aerial passes.
Who had the biggest impact on you from a teammate standpoint in the NHL? Who were you closest with?
As a teammate. See, I didn't stay anywhere too long. They figured out I wasn't very good, so I had a lot of guys that helped me along the way that made me better.
Was it surreal for you to play for Montreal? You only played for Montreal for 5 games.
Yeah, they figured it out quick.
Come on now. Hey, but you're growing up in Montreal, then you're putting that jersey on.
That was an incredible feeling.
Special,
First
right?
time you put that jersey on, growing up, being a fan of Montreal was, it was a great moment.
Your dad get to see you play in Montreal?
Yep. Yeah, the whole family was there, so that was a cool moment.
All right, Philadelphia, right? I mean, that's a great organization too. So, what'd you learn from being in that organization?
How to be a great teammate. I thought Bobby Clarke was incredible at getting everyone to be a great teammate. And I think that year that John LeClaire, myself, and Eric Desjardins, Gilbert Leon got traded there. That we went from being kind of a non-playoff team, and we went all the way to semifinals, lost to Jersey. So,
all right. So the Legion of Doom line, which people are very familiar with, obviously, with Eric Lindros and John LeClaire, and you're the one that coined that line.
Yeah.
How'd you come up with that?
Well, we had just played against the Rangers, and they scored 4 goals. We won 4-3 at New York, and it was like the 3rd or 4th game in a row where they scored 3 goals or more. They were just rolling. And the reporter was asking, why are they so dangerous? And I said, they're bigger than everyone, they're stronger than everyone, and they're more talented than everyone. You're doomed when they're like the Legion of Doom.
Wow. Who knew how creative you were, too, Monty?
Yeah, I know. Every once in a while, blind squirrel finds an acorn.
All right, so who's the one that came to you and said you should look into coaching?
That was I always wanted to do it. And my head coach in college, Sean Walsh, told me, when you're done playing pro hockey, give me a year heads up and I'll take you on my staff.
Really? So how'd you know you were done playing hockey?
Well, unfortunately, Sean passed due to cancer before I was done. I mean, you don't want to stop playing, but I tore my groin my last year playing, so it was the body said it's time to go. But
when you came here and played for the River Otters, and I know it's the United Hockey League, but you were a player-coach. Were you coaching or doing more playing at the time?
Both. I mean, Killer Kaminsky was great to me that year as the head coach. Allowed me to do a lot of the video and help with organizing practice. So it gave me a taste of it, and that's after that when I went to Notre Dame.
Okay. And so at Notre Dame, what was your responsibility?
My responsibility was face-offs, to work with centers on face-offs, and to do a lot of extra conditioning, skating. And I just went there for the experience to watch how it is to build a team, because it was the first year Jeff Jackson took over at Notre Dame.
Okay, and then you go to RPI, like we said. You end up in Dubuque, coaching in the USHL. How familiar were you with that league?
I wasn't that familiar with the league. I'd scouted it at RPI, but it's funny how relationships work. You build relationships, and Bobby Kinsella was someone who was out of the league that I thought was one of the premier scouts in that league as an assistant coach. He's now a scout for the Blues. And I hired Bobby. That was the first thing I did. It was the smartest thing I did, because he went out and got Zemgus Girgensson. He went out and got Johnny Gaudreau. He went out and got Riley Barber. And we had 4 guys that we initially signed, all playing at least 3 games in the NHL.
All right, you told me a great story before about how you got Johnny Gaudreau, because it wasn't like you went out and scouted him. And I know it's a tragic story and whatnot, but, he was such a great player. Even back then, did you know right off the bat that this guy was special?
Well, Bobby Kinsella calls. He goes, I know you're going to think I'm crazy. He goes, there's this 5'7", 125-pound forward that I think we should sign. And he told me where he was living. I'm like, well, Johnny Stevens, who I played in Philadelphia with, I'm like, he's going to know. And he first said, he goes, sign him. He goes, he's the best offensive player I've seen below the top of the circles in a long time. And we signed him. Thankfully, I had a relationship with the dad, who was the Zamboni and ran the rink
where he played, yeah.
Where I played.
Oh, really?
Yeah, with the Phantoms in the American League.
Okay.
And so they let Johnny go to the USHL, and he was Rookie of the Year. We won the Cup, and the rest is history.
And he just dominated that league.
Dominated.
I got to give a shout out to a couple St. Louis kids you coach, TJ Moore and TJ Schleter, right? We'll
Awesome.
You can't forget those kids, right?
Awesome, great kids. We're on our first championship team. TJ Schleter, first captain in Dubuque Fighting Saint history.
Really?
Yeah.
So that league was great for you a great foundation for you to learn how to coach, and because you're recruiting, you're doing everything in that league, right?
Oh yeah, you're scouting. You're running a team. You're running a budget.
You're driving the bus.
But it is. You learn a lot of hats. But the most important thing, I think, like the first time you're a head coach, it's good to be in a league like that where you can experiment with all sorts of ideas and you learn what works, what doesn't work. Like pulling a goalie. If I didn't work in the USHL, I don't know if I ever think, but I would just try stuff. And you could change momentum in a game. Like today, we pulled them 9 minutes. You don't
almost
see it.
10 minutes.
Almost 10 minutes, yeah. But that's because it's like, we're flat. Let's change the vibe here.
And you score right away, so you take credit for that, by the way.
All day. All day. Take
Is that
credit
how you
for
drew it
everything
up?
when the head coach.
Is that how you drew it up, though, 9.5 minutes?
It's how Steve Ott drew it up.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, Cairo shoot at his feet, and then it goes in.
Yeah.
That was great, But listen, you're down 3-0, so why not, right?
Exactly. We weren't generating anything.
Yeah. Okay. So you go to Denver University. You have great success there. Was that the first college program that offered you a job, or how'd you end up landing in Denver?
Yeah, well, tremendous success in Dubuque.
Yeah.
The 2 out of 3 years we won.
Right?
Yeah. And by the end of the third year, the Denver job came open, and John Miller's a great mentor of mine, someone that called me and said, I think we'd be very interested in you. Would you be interested? I said yes. And he got his information. He's best friends with Bill Wirtz, Rocky Wirtz, sorry.
Okay.
And their board, of having talked to the Bowman family and everybody involved, they said they had recommended me to them.
Okay. What's the key to building a college program?
Recruiting. It's the number one thing. Is you got to recruit the right kids from the right families that compete and have good hockey sense. It's a different. You build a team differently there than you do pro.
Okay, so give us an idea of what you're doing to recruit. I mean, are you on the trail? Are you going to players' homes? Are you going to showcases, watching games? I mean,
yeah, you're doing that all in September, and then in the summer, you do a lot of that. But it's really important you hire real good assistants because they're going to be doing the bulk of that. And I was very fortunate. And, David Carl replaced me. Tavis McMillan is still there as the lead recruiter. And, the two of them have won 2 national championships since I left. So I take a lot of pride in the fact that we built it the right way and we built it to last. And they've taken it over and made it better.
Did you recommend David Carl?
I did.
Replace you?
Yeah.
What'd you see in him?
Intelligence, emotional intelligence in particular, great mind for the game, was someone that always had, when he had adjustments to make, they had reason, and he backed it up with video. So I just knew he's going to be a good coach.
All right, so when you see these kids, Troy Terry being another one, at a young age, they're teenagers, they're kids, and then they go on to have great success in the NHL. Like, you got to have so much, be proud of these kids, really, right?
Absolutely, because, they come and they're young, and then you watch them develop, and then you see the success. Logan O'Connor might be the best story. Wasn't drafted. We were one of the few teams to be offering him a scholarship, and just kept getting better. And, he signed after his junior year, and he's worked his way in. He's won a championship, USHL National Championship, Stanley Cup.
Was it always about the NHL for you in terms of coaching? The allergies here will get you. See, that'll remind you. I don't know how they were in Massachusetts.
For me, coaching was always about being able to connect with a group of people and make them believe in the team and what we can do to elevate, to maximize your ceiling. Coaching in the NHL, I got to be honest, when I went to Denver, I thought I was retiring there.
Really? That's got to be tough to walk away from, right?
It was really tough. Great city. Quality of life was outstanding. Great neighborhood. But the NHL, and I recognized that maybe a couple more years in college I would have been bored. Mm-hmm. So I wanted the challenge now. I wanted to see how good I could be.
Well, once you're winning national championships, right? I mean, what's the next step for a college coach if you have that option to get to the NHL,
Correct.
right? But teams were coming after you. You said no to one or two teams, didn't you?
I don't know if I said no, but I interviewed with them, mm-hmm. and either I pulled out or they went in a different direction. But it wasn't until after I won the national championship that I knew I was ready to leave.
What's it like coaching in the NHL for the first time? And you're a young coach. I remember talking to Scott Mellamy. He played over 1,400 games in the NHL, and it's like, now you're an assistant coach in the NHL. You're getting on the board. You're presenting. It can be a little bit nerve-wracking right off the bat.
Yeah, I think developing relationships at the NHL level and having the right amount of accountability and I guess, I don't know if empathy is the right word, but relating to your players and understanding what they're going through. Mm-hmm. The season's a grind.
Yeah.
But if you just have being relatable and you don't hold them accountable mm-hmm. to your beliefs and what winning hockey looks like, it's not going to work.
And you got to be confident, right? So you had the confidence to talk to guys like Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin and be like, hey, this is what I want you to do, right?
Correct. But you're going to get tested because in the NHL, you're going to go through losing streaks like you don't usually, and the magnifying glass is even more. Mm-hmm. And being able to maintain your confidence is paramount to being able to be a head coach long time in this league.
How tough was the Game 7 loss to St. Louis here?
Oh, that was hard. Even though St. Louis was in the seventh game vastly superior.
You had your chances, though.
We had our chances. Minner made a great save on a wraparound by Ben, I remember, in the second overtime.
Yeah.
And but for me, when I look at it, Game 6 is where we're up 3-2. We went back, and after the first period, it was 1-1, and I thought we were the better team in the last 10 minutes. I'm mm-hmm. like, we're ready. I should have demanded that we be great in that second period. St. Louis was great in that second period.
Ben Bishop was great, right? How good was Ben Bishop, though?
Ben Bishop was unreal. I mean, that's why we got there.
Yeah. I don't think he gets enough credit for how good he was. I mean, people did at the time when he was playing, but since he stopped playing, it's like people need to look at his numbers, man. He was unbelievable for a good stretch there.
Tampa and Dallas, incredible. Yeah. Incredible record.
Yeah. Okay. When you left Dallas, were you thinking you'd get another chance and it would come this quickly to at least come here as an assistant? What's going through your mind then?
What's going through my mind, I got to be honest, when I lost my job was my career's over. I got to go find new skills. That's going to make...
Painting warehouses or whatever,
something
right?
like that, flipping donuts, But very fortunate, and that's where, I'm incredibly grateful forever for Dom Stillman, Doug Armstrong, and Chief.
Yeah. And then you get to Boston, and were you a better coach when you got to Boston than you were when you got to Dallas?
Well, much better.
In what way?
Well, I had the opportunity to work under Chief and with those assistants that were here, and just you start to add more practice drills, meeting times, just things that you can to make yourself better so you're mm-hmm. more efficient. And then when I got to Boston, I was very confident in the way we were going to do everything.
When you're a head coach and then you get hired as an assistant coach, is it hard to be an assistant after you've been a head coach?
Not for me, because I was an assistant for so long prior. I think at that point in my life, I had 6 years as an assistant, maybe 9 years as a head. Mm-hmm. And I think if you have a team first attitude, which almost every coach does, that's why you get into coaching. Yeah, it's easy and working for a guy like Chief is outstanding.
All right, so what'd you learn from Chief? And we all love Chief, man. He's had he made an impact on so many people here in St. Louis. So what'd you learn from him? What do you still take from him today?
Well, first of all, Chief's a great man.
Yeah.
What I learned from him was he manages the bench at a really good level, really patient about when he talks. And then in hard times, when it's really stressful, that's when he's his calmest. Mm-hmm. It's like he doesn't even know he's supposed to have to be stressed.
Are you calm on the bench? Are you emotional? How are you?
Yeah, I'm a little more emotional. I'm definitely a lot more emotional than Chief is. Because I really believe in harping on the details and habits.
Yeah.
Because that keeps me into the game.
Mm-hmm. But after a loss like tonight, can you turn the page pretty quickly, or are you going to go home and this is going to eat you up for a little bit?
Well, a game like tonight where I didn't like our fight, it's going to eat me up. But again, that experience teaches you in this league. Okay, you're going to have nights like this. Mm-hmm. How do you get them to respond quicker?
Yeah.
And how do we get a little more consistency? Because this is my 4th home game, and 3 of the 4 have looked like this.
Yeah. We saw some footage of you in Boston. You had some great players in Boston. You'll always appreciate that opportunity, right? To have a Bergeron, Krejci, these guys, obviously, in addition to the Marchands and the Pastas and the McAvoys and all these guys that you coached.
Yeah, they made me better, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
My experience in Boston made me better. I think I'm better prepared again here to be a better head coach.
Yeah.
But I want to stay in St. Louis for a long time.
Yeah.
And I want to win another cup.
Yeah. Well,
not another. I want to help the Blues win another cup.
Yeah. There's no doubt about it. Well, I think they want you here for a long time, too. So, and the reaction you've been getting from the fans and everybody, that's got to make you feel good.
Oh, it feels great. It's nice to feel wanted / appreciated, and it makes you want to go to the office and work harder and get things where these fans can really be happy with the product in front of them.
Isn't it a little strange, though, Monty? You're on an NHL bench with one team, and a week later you're on an NHL bench with a different team. Not many people will experience that ever. What was that like for you?
A whirlwind. I just thought it was crazy, and the funniest reactions I've gotten is from referees, because a lot of them had just reffed against you, and then they see you there, and they're like, it's the NHL.
What was your schedule like in Boston before you came here? Because the schedule here since you've gotten here has just been nuts. You've been on the road a ton. Yeah,
we had played quite a few games, but East Coast is a lot easier.
It really is, isn't it?
It's so much easier. The travel here is just further because the West is more spread out. You don't have as much practice time. That's the biggest difference.
Mm-hmm. And you like practice time, right? It's important.
Coaches love practice. Yeah. It's where you feel you get the body reps. It's where you can really teach.
All right, so the family's still in Boston. What's the plans for the holiday break here?
Well, they fly in on the 23rd and be here through to the 2nd, fly home on the 3rd, then they'll come back out in late January again, and then we'll move permanently July 1.
Yeah, and everybody's excited about that? Or did they make a bunch of close friends in Boston? Now they're going to leave them behind.
Well, kids make friends. Yeah. They're easily adaptable, but with the great friends they have here, this is such an easy move.
When their dad's the head coach of the NHL team in the town, they make a lot of friends too. Right? That's just the way it works, Monty. Yeah. Well, we're happy to have you here, man. It's great to have you back here in St. Louis, and especially knowing you're going to be here for a while, and you got some good players coming too. Have you started to look at the prospect pool and some of the players that may be on the way over the course of the next few years?
Slowly, but I really just focus on the team. Yeah. Right here, right now.
That's a coach's answer.
That's my job.
That's a good answer right there. All the best, Monty. Happy holidays to you.
Thanks, Strick. Okay? You too. Happy holidays. Yep.
Jim Montgomery on the late shift here in the Players Lounge. Hope you enjoyed it, everybody. Happy holidays, Blues fans.